The settlement's perimeter alarm hadn't sounded, which meant they'd been watching her for hours. Marin Hale set down her geological scanner and turned slowly, keeping her movements deliberate and unthreatening. The Vrikathi pack stood at the edge of the clearing, 20, maybe 30 of them, their silver-blue fur catching the late afternoon light of Kesher 7's binary suns. They shouldn't be here. The territorial agreement was clear. Humans stayed in the lowlands. Vrikathi kept to the mountain forests. For 3 years, both species had honored that boundary with the careful distance of neighbors who'd seen too much war. But there, at the front of the pack, a small form moved, limping, struggling with each step. Ricor. Marin recognized the cub immediately, the distinctive white patch over his left eye, the 2 large ears he hadn't grown into yet. She'd seen him playing near the border streams during her surveys, always under the watchful eyes of pack guardians. He couldn't be more than 6 months old in Vrikathi terms, barely past infancy. Each step the cub took was agony. His right hind leg dragged uselessly, the joint swollen to twice its normal size. Behind him, the pack remained motionless, a living wall of muscle and fang. Waiting. Marin's chest tightened. She knew what this meant. The Vrikathi had their own healers, skilled practitioners who could mend broken bones and cure infections with their world's natural medicines. If they were bringing Ricor to her, if they were breaking 3 years of careful separation, then their healers had already failed. The cub whimpered, stumbled, caught himself. Still coming toward her. The trust in that small, determined approach nearly broke her heart. "Okay," Marin whispered, mostly to herself. "Okay, little one." She dropped to her knees, making herself smaller, less threatening. Ricor limped the final meters and collapsed at her feet. His breathing rapid and shallow. Up close, she could see the infection, the red streaks radiating from the joint. The heat shimmer of fever around his small body. The leg had been broken badly, probably weeks ago, and had set wrong. Without intervention, sepsis would kill him within days. Marin looked up at the pack. An older female stood at the front, her posture rigid with barely contained grief. The cub's mother, almost certainly. Behind her, a massive male. The pack alpha watched with eyes that held both threat and desperate hope. They'd tried everything their world could offer. Now, they were asking the human. No pressure. Marin activated her comm. "Hail to settlement. Medical emergency. I need Dr. Castellanos. A field surgery kit. And broad-spectrum antibiotics. Now." The response crackled back immediately. "Marin, you're at the border zone." "What?" "There's a Vrikathi cub dying in front of me and his entire pack watching me." "Send everything." Silence. Then, 15 minutes. 15 minutes. Marin looked down at Ricor's labored breathing. The cub might not have 15 minutes. She pulled her water canteen and her emergency med kit, laughably inadequate for this, but it was something. She soaked a cloth and gently cleaned the infection site, while Ricor whimpered. The pack rumbled, a low warning sound that vibrated through the ground. "I know," Marin said softly, not looking at them. "I know it hurts him. But I have to see what we're working with." Did they understand her words? Probably not. But tone was universal, and the pack's rumbling quieted. The break was worse than she'd feared. The femur had shattered, and fragments had pierced through muscle. Their healers had done what they could, but Vrikathi medicine was plant-based, spiritual, beautiful, and effective for their own biology. But this injury needed steel and synthetic bone grafts, and human stubbornness. 12 minutes. Ricor's breathing grew more ragged. Marin made a decision. She pulled out her multi-tool and started heating the small blade attachment. The pack stirred, growls rising. "I have to drain the infection," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Or he dies before help arrives." The alpha stepped forward. For a terrible moment, Marin thought he would attack. Instead, he lowered himself to the ground beside Ricor, positioning his massive body so the cub could see him. Permission. Trust. Marin's hands didn't shake as she made the incision. They couldn't. Humanity's first lesson in the stars had been simple. When others gave up, when technology failed, when hope seemed lost, humans improvised. They endured. They found a way. Pus and fluid drained from the wound. Ricor screamed, and Marin felt each cry like a knife. But the pressure eased, the inflammation began to subside, and most importantly, the cub kept breathing. The transport shuttle's roar announced Dr. Castellanos' arrival. The older woman took in the scene in one glance, the dying cub, the alien pack, Marin's blood-stained hands, and simply nodded. Let's get to work. What followed was 3 hours of surgery performed on forest floor, with a pack of carnivorous aliens watching every movement. Dr. Castellanos realigned the bone fragments. Marin assisted, her xenobiology training finally proving useful as she navigated anatomy that was familiar yet foreign. They installed a temporary bone scaffold, human technology adapting to alien biology. They flooded the wound with antibiotics that, theoretically, should work on Vrykathy systems. Theoretically, when they finished, Ricor's breathing had steadied. The fever was breaking. The leg was stabilized in a cast that looked absurdly human against his alien form. The Alpha approached slowly. He lowered his head to Ricor, breathing in the cub's scent, then looked at Marin. In his eyes was something she'd never expected to see from a Vrykathy. Recognition. Respect. He made a sound low, rumbling, almost like a purr, and the entire pack repeated it. A thank you, perhaps. Or an acknowledgement. The mother carefully lifted Ricor in her jaws, gentle despite her size. The pack turned to leave, melting back into the forest. But the Alpha paused, looked back at Marin one last time. The boundary had been crossed. Something had changed. 3 weeks later, Marin found a gift at the border. A perfectly preserved mineral formation from deep in Vrykathy territory, the kind geologists would kill to study. Beside it, small paw prints in the soil, uneven, but healing. Ricor had walked here himself. That evening, the territorial agreement was formally revised. Humans and Vrykathy were no longer just neighbors maintaining careful distance. They were something new. Allies who'd learned that sometimes, the gap between species wasn't about technology or medicine or superior knowledge. Sometimes, it was simply about refusing to let a cub die, and having the audacity to believe you could help. That was the human way. That was why, across 1,000 worlds, when hope seemed lost and experts failed, they called for humans. Because humans didn't know when to quit.